Make sure you subscribe to our channel. When we get to 2,500 subs, we are going to give away a Traeger 650 Ironwood 650 smoker. Our smoker is currently sleeping very quietly in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Made some awesome pizza over the weekend. So yeah, we're going to give away a Traeger Ironwood. When we get to 2,500, all you have to do is take a picture, post it on social that you are subscribed, and then we will pick one winner. And yeah, we will give away a Traeger smoker. Hopefully it's in the state of Utah, down the street from us, because that thing is going to be $1 million if we have to ship it to Europe or Australia. James Knight, if you're listening, I hope you are not going to win the Traeger, because that would be unbelievable money. Let's switch gears, talk a little college pig, college football. Interesting stories here in the great state of Utah and really across the Pac-12. Let's start with the AP Top 25 that had your Utah Utes, who have not yet named a starting quarterback, in the 24th position. Jake, accurate? Not respect enough? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's a big tip of the cap to get him into the top 25. I think that Utah is a program that gets a lot of disrespect before the season starts. You know, everybody doubts them. Everybody, for whatever reason, you know, and this does happen to BYU sometimes as well. But specifically with Utah, like I think that it's always a case where Utah seems to have to play 4 or 5 games to prove that they're a top 20 team, or even maybe a top 15 team if they're really pushing it and having a good year, before people will give them credit, you know, and I think that, you know, that's what happens when your program has a reputation of being a grounding pound program. You know, Utah is not a quarterback factory. We all know that, you know. Utah is not a big time wide receiver factory. We all know that. Utah is a defensive back factory. Utah is an offensive line factory. You know, that's the kind of program that they run, and it's a hell of a program. They're a great team, but I think, you know, the teams that are getting the accolades in preseason and getting the top 10 nod and getting number 1 overall best team in the country.
Animal.
Like Alabama's number 1 damn near every year because you know what you're getting. They're the best team in college football. They're damn near an NFL team, and you can just bank on that. And so I think for Utah, I'd be thrilled to be, you know, ranked 24th in the nation right now heading into the season, and I'd love to get to the top 20 inside of the first 2 weeks. That's what I'd be looking at. So yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that if I was them.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how the Pac-12 plays out. I mean, obviously everybody loves Oregon. Everybody loves Keaton Slovis and USC. And again, I know that, you know, I'm an idiot when I talk about USC always being a national champion.
Well, look, you don't watch football or basketball.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah, we get it.
USC at 15 with Keaton Slovis, expectations have to be met at this point.
Yeah.
And USC has kind of stayed the course the last several years. And, you know, Slovis, I think, has emerged as a guy that's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, let alone the conference. You know, I think that USC has a chance to return. But I also think if Charlie Brewer wins this starting quarterback job, which I'm going to guess he will, although they are not making you feel good about that. But I think particularly if Charlie Brewer wins that job, I think the Utes have a chance to be a top 10 team at some point in this season because they're going to beat a lot of teams that nobody expects them to. You know, I think the offensive line, you know, you're always going to get good line play. It'll just be interesting to see how this quarterback situation plays out. And to see how this Ute team comes together. I mean, they've had a very quiet, not a lot of headline-worthy incidents in camp.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when that happens, that means that Kyle Whittingham is exactly where he likes to be in his comfort zone. And if they continue to be a very quiet team during fall camp, I think that you're in for a lot of trouble in the Pac-12 because they're going to be very good.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be locked in. I mean, you can expect them to have a great defense. That's what they pride themselves on. And, you know, the thing for Utah over the years has always been, you know, we have this great defense. We typically have a really nice running game that we can rely on consistently no matter what. The problem has always been, whether it's been Travis Wilson or otherwise, whoever the name has been back there, it hasn't been good enough. It hasn't been close to good enough. You haven't ever had a deep threat. You haven't had that's been the limitation of the program. So now, when you look at a guy who's transferring in from Baylor, who's got a cannon, who really should be able to make plays for you, and Charlie Brewer, you'd like to think, okay, if this guy, assuming, again, it's not official, but assuming he wins the starting quarterback job, you would think that with a great defense, a great running game, and now a capable quarterback, that you'd be able to go and do some things. And so, for me, that's why I don't think we should just be crowning Oregon and USC as the teams that are going to win the Pac-12. Those are the pretty boys coming out before the season. But I think Utah has a lot of opportunity to come in and prove, hey, we're the most well-rounded team and we're the toughest team, which is one of my biggest knocks on USC. I think they're a soft team that plays in LA, that has a lot of talent, but can be had physically. You can intimidate them a little bit. So that's why I think Utah, getting the inside the top 25 at number 24, it's a tip of the cap. People are respecting them, but you're not going to get top 20 until you prove that you're that team.
Well, and I also think one of the things about USC is Clay Helton. I mean, he is. I don't know how many people have called for him to be fired, more than recall Gavin Newsom as governor of California.
Seriously.
And but I think he continues to put talent on the field, but talent on the field has never won you championships. You have to have a program and a process to achieve at the highest levels. It's what makes Nick Saban so remarkable. By the way, very few teams go wire to wire in the AP poll.
Mm-hmm.
I think USC was the last one to do it. So with the Matt Leinart sex machine days at USC. So we'll see if Alabama can do that. Obviously, a big change at Clemson at quarterback doesn't seem to bother many people. They're third, Oklahoma's second. Those are the best programs. They all have great processes. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Now, in Provo with BYU, I think you have essentially said it without saying it, that Jaren Hall is going to be your starting quarterback.
Yeah, that seems to be the consensus. I mean, I just think that he's the most fit and prepared. He gives you the athleticism you need, in terms of, running the ball from the quarterback position. He's got a good arm. He can make the throws. He's just ready. It just everything adds up to him being the starter, and so to me, for BYU, it is not over their head that they have something to prove this season, and whether they take it as disrespect or whatever, I'm glad to hear that they're cognizant of the fact that everyone thinks they had a soft schedule last year, because by national football standards, you did have a soft schedule last year, but that's not your fault. That's COVID's fault. So this year, with a difficult schedule, this is what we've been saying. You got to come out, and I really do believe 7 wins is not enough. You got to be at least 8 wins, and if you can push to 9, now you're really having a successful season. I think you're silencing the doubters.
I think you're 7 wins, Max. I think this is a very difficult schedule.
Yeah.
Man, and I love it. Tom Holmoe puts his program in position to compete at the top of college football every year. Independent be damned. I think with this schedule, it's amazing. But the contrast between the quarterback battle at Utah, where you have a guy in Cam Rising and Charlie Brewer battling it out, and by all accounts, it is very close. It's very different down in Provo. I think, I think Mitch Harper does a great job for KSL Sports.
Mm-hmm.
I follow him very closely. I think based on what Mitch is reporting that, it feels like anyway that Jaren Hall's got the job, and then there's everybody else, which is a very good thing. I mean, when you have this kind of wide receiver talent, and when you have the projected offensive line that BYU has, you cannot make a mistake at quarterback. You have to have a guy who can get the football out and let his playmakers play. And I think that's Jaren Hall. And I think that defenses will have to play Jaren Hall a little slower than a traditional pocket passer because of his ability to make explosive plays and move his legs. And I think that bodes very, very well for BYU if Jaren Hall is, in fact, the choice, and I think he is. They have some really incredible talent. They're going to do well at tight end. Obviously, that wide receiver room. I took a little heat the other day for saying it's one of the best ever at BYU, but again, I just stand by that. Certainly in the last decade.
Yeah.
When's the last time When's the last time you had this kind of complete athlete, 4, 5, 6 receivers deep?
Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, just imagine it. I mean, you've got all those guys on the field in particular sets, and you have a quarterback that can really run. So, as long as Hall doesn't get too run happy and he's committed to the passing game, you really should be in a great spot. I mean, as long there's no defense that can stop a quarterback who makes the correct decision in terms of when to run and when to pass.
Yeah,
So
I would agree.
we saw this a little bit with Justin Fields for the Bears. He made several good decisions. He even made a decision where he's going to fake like he's going to run for the first down and lets it go at the last second to create space for his wide receiver. If you have a quarterback in the college game that can do that and is capable of that, that's chaos for a defense. So that's why Baylor Romney is not going to be your starting quarterback. He's not a runner. He's not. He doesn't have that additional layer to his game. That said, I think he's a phenomenal backup. I'd love to see him be the backup to Jaren. I think he's reliable. I think he can come in and do exactly what you need him to do. And that's the other concern that I would have for Jaren Hall. If he gets too run happy and he sustains an injury, then, that's not ideal, right? As the saying goes. So my point is as long as Hall stays committed to the passing game and stays committed to going through his reads and checking the ball down when it calls for it, he's going to be fine. It's just a matter of can he stay healthy? And if he does, they should theoretically, they should be at least a 7-win team.
Well, and you start looking at the depth that BYU has, and again, I would just simply point to the wide receiver room, and I think you look at Gunnar Romney, Pau, the Nakua brothers, Cosper, Jackson. Again, I still think tight end with Isaac Rex is a huge position. They need to be able to use the tight end these days in college football. I think the tight end continues to be important. But you have a guy in Dallin Holker that is an able number 2 there. I just think you have a lot of weapons that you haven't had.
Yeah.
And by the way, we haven't even talked about the fact that Algier and Pini Katoa are a formidable 1-2 at running back. I think that this team can win 7 games. A lot of things will have to break right for them to win 8, 9 games. Mm-hmm. I mean, the schedule is unbelievable. And if you look at, BYU, losing that 1 game last year.
Yeah, and that's a difference in conversation this year. If you had won that 1 game, we're having a different conversation most likely.
But and here's the question about BYU.
Mm-hmm.
How do you finish 11-1?
Mm-hmm.
What were they? 11th in the country last year?
Yeah, they were banging on the door of the top 10.
Not in the top 25.
Yeah, because I think you're not respected. You do it once every 20 years, you're not going to get that respect.
I mean, I think this is a big season.
It's huge
for BYU.
Yeah, I think it's
really
huge.
Do.
I think from a program standpoint, from the national perspective, not local perspective, but from the national pundits and how BYU is viewed by ESPN and all these guys that are doing mock drafts and all these people. They're not. It's not surprising to me that BYU is not in the top 25.
I'm a little surprised by it. I'm a little surprised by it.
I think the formula is very straightforward as to why they're not in the top 25. You had a soft schedule, and I think people really hold that against you. And you also don't recruit at a super high level compared to the top 25 teams. So when you're looking at, okay, you played a soft schedule, and that's how you got 11 wins, plus you're BYU and you're not nationally ranked every single year, you're not going to get that tip of the cap. With that said, though, I do think they're right there amongst. They're certainly top 30. I don't think I can't. Anybody who says they're not top 30 is up in the night. I mean, this is a good team, but they have to go and prove it now. You got to go and win these games. You're can't have.
What are you 18 days away from Arizona?
Yeah, you can't have in games like Arizona. You should dominate Arizona. You should go down there and kick their ass. But are we going to get turnovers? Are we going to get sloppy play? Who knows?
And I really hope. Las Vegas traditionally has been a very good place for BYU football and BYU athletics in general.
Yeah.
If you can get Allegiant Stadium full, because your Arizona fans, your Southern California fans, your Las Vegas fans, your Utah fans, Utahns tend to love their drive to Vegas. And I would think that you're going to have a very, very strong contingent of BYU fans. And I think Arizona football is so far down right now, I don't think you're going to have many Arizona fans there.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But then you go from, Arizona and Las Vegas a week later to, back to Provo to take on your arch nemesis in the Utah Utes. Mm-hmm. And you're trying not to lose a decade straight of football games to
another thing that's
Utah.
hurting you.
You know, I think so.
Another thing that hurts you.
But then you turn that around a week later after that, and you stay home. But here comes Arizona State, the 24th ranked team in the country, or 25th ranked team in the country.
Yeah.
Another Pac-12 opponent. I mean.
That's a game I feel like you should really be in, though. That's a game you should win.
You don't leave the state of Utah again until October 16th when you go to Waco.
Yeah.
I mean, this is. And just projecting this out, I mean, I would think that you'll be 1-2 coming into the USF game.
Mm-hmm.
That USF game against the Bulls.
You're saying they're winning, they're beating Arizona, they're losing to Utah, and they're losing to ASU.
I think so. I think they can beat ASU.
Yeah, I do too.
That's going to be a very tough game. And I think Arizona State has a lot of issues in their football program right now. There's a recruiting scandal. They have several coaches away from the team because of it. I think, but that's a very good football team. That's a very fast football team. They're well coached. They have a ton of big time recruits that are playing for them. That's going to be very difficult. I have to give the slight edge to Arizona State in that game.
Okay.
And so now the USF game becomes huge. And then, by the way, you're going. Do you understand that you're playing Utah and Utah State in the first 6 weeks of the season?
Yeah.
I mean, this schedule.
But you should beat Utah State. You should.
Well, then you follow that. You follow that up with Boise.
Yeah.
Boise.
But again, we have to if this team is legit.
Yeah.
That there are expectations. You will beat Utah State. You will beat Boise, right? You will fight to the death to beat ASU. You may lose that game, but it needs to be tight. It needs to be last possession, field goal, game winner kind of game, if you're going to lose that game.
Yeah. We'll see. We talk about programs that have lost quarterbacks. Obviously, Trevor Lawrence comes to mind. Mm-hmm. Well, they're backfilling him with a stud.
Yeah. And that's the difference.
What is BYU replacing Zach Wilson with? I don't know. We'll find out in the Arizona game in 18 days.
Yeah.
Let's get some comments in here. I know I haven't read many today. I've already gotten my DMs from people saying, "Hey, how come you're not reading my comment, Dick?"
You're pissing people off.
I know.